people, so I leave it at Wilen.
I pronounce it right. Okay, we're on.
The Jenny.
We're on. That's Tracey Wilen. I'm Jay Fidell. We're doing ThinkTech Talks. This is a ThinkTech Talk with Tracey Wilen-Daugenti. I pronounced it right.
Pretty good.
And she's a thought leader, and you will see what I mean. You will see what I mean about thought leaders. I know this because we've talked to her before, and we had a wonderful Skype conversation where it just went just so swell. It has to be about 60 days ago, maybe less.
Yeah.
She was in San Francisco at the time. That's largely because she spends a lot of her time in San Francisco. She lives in San Francisco, but she travels, and she's on a tour now all around the country. Let me give you more about Tracey Wilen. Prominent thought leader and the impact of technology, that's why we like her so much, on society, work, and careers. She's been a scholar at Standford, you remember Standford, and has held leadership positions at Apple, remember Apple, HP, Cisco, the Apollo Group, that's Phoenix. That's a big company. She has authored 11 books. Last time I looked, it was 10. Something came out recently.
Coming out.
Okay, including Women Lead, Career Perspectives for Workplace Leaders. That was this year. Society 3.0, I love that title. How Technology is Reshaping Education, Work, and Society last year. Appeared on CNN, Fox, and CBC. How do you live with yourself? CNN, Fox, and CBS News, Wall Street Journal, Chicago Tribune, Forbes, Los Angeles Times, and USA Today. Frequently contributes to our favorite, the Huffington Post, the Examiner, Christian Science Monitor, and on radio shows and streaming shows like this one all across the country. And global speaker on impact of technology on work careers and women's leadership. That's why she's here now. She was honored by, and this part I like a lot, she was honored by the San Francisco Business Times as the 2012 most influential woman in the Bay Area business. Tracey Wilen, wow. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Jay.
That's great. It's great to follow up, see you in the flesh.
I know.
You look just like your picture.
But the technology is great. I thought it was a great show.
Yeah, it was. We had a good time. And we will today too, but I want to catch what you've been doing. You came straight away from Waikiki, from the Coral Ballroom in the Hilton Hawaiian Village, where you moderated, keynoted a panel this morning. Tell me about it.
Sure. So I opened up the Wahine Conference with a keynote speech, and it was really about women and leadership. And then following that, I moderated a terrific panel on negotiation with 3 prominent women from the local area and from all walks of life. One was with a bank, and one was with the Chamber of Commerce, and one was in real estate. So it was very interesting. A lot of questions from the audience. So
tell us about the discussion. I know we want to have the free version. The rest of them paid. What was discussed? What was the thought-provoking stuff that happened?
Well, I think a lot of women want to know about negotiating for salary and promotion. So of course we covered, how do you have a dialogue? How do you prepare? How do you track metrics on yourself? How do you know your worth? A lot of women also wanted to discuss complex negotiations, and that's where I thought the panelists did a fantastic job, because we had CEOs and executive vice presidents and the head of the Chamber of Commerce talking about what it's like to have so many stakeholders and how you prepare and maneuver with very complex deals. And what I really enjoyed is how they said that women really excel at this, because when you're dealing with large negotiations and you have so many stakeholders, it can't be win-lose. It has to be a bigger picture. It has to have elements for everyone.
Yeah, that's true. And that is a woman thing too. It's sort of the maternal thing, would you say?
You're saying this, not me.
I know it's a little bit chauvinistic, but there must be something that you can suggest to them which gives them special credentials. No?
Well, here's how I would frame it, because I believe that negotiation is really a skill, and no matter how young or old you are, you can learn it. I think where women excel, or state that they excel, is that they actually listen, they prepare, they see a large picture, and that they're very comfortable with maneuvering with many stakeholders. And so because of that, they're very skilled at these type of negotiations. Not to say that men are not skilled at it. This is where women were saying, we are very skilled at this.
Were there men in the room?
Yes, there were a few.
Trying to learn,
There were a few.
trying to get the secrets.
Yeah, there were a few men in the room, but it was predominantly women. It was over 650 attendees. And my understanding is this conference just keeps growing and growing, and I think that's just heartwarming because it was really flocked with press and exciting people there, that it was a lot of fun.
That's great.
It's still going on, by the way.
Yes. Well, you know, Hawaii Business, which organizes this program, is one of our sponsors.
They're
We're
terrific.
very close with them. We work with them on a number of programs, yeah.
They're just a wonderful organization, and I was so happy to meet them and be a part of it.
Well, so let me. I went and printed out the all these speakers that's on the table here somewhere, and oh yeah, just some. I'll mention the local ones and just compare notes with you. Some of them are pretty big people, huh?
Yes.
You know, these were national figures.
Yes.
I don't know them. Maybe you know them. But locally, we had Barbara Maramoto. I don't know if you met her. She was a legislator here for years and years, Republican legislator. Christine Camp, who's been in our programs, she is a developer, a woman developer.
She was on our panel, and she was fantastic.
She's really terrific, yeah. She has done amazing things, and I don't know where she gets the energy. It must be a certain kind of pill.
Maybe it's youth.
Maybe so. Let's see, others that I know. Deborah Barasini has a big connection to Hawaii.
She was speaking and moderating a panel at the same time I was moderating.
Oh, good. Mm-hmm. Crystal Rose, a lawyer here, we know her, and she was involved in a Wahine program. I guess it was a board of directors program. That the Hawaii Business did about 90 to 120 days ago.
There's a panel this afternoon about board membership and how to pursue it.
It's the same thing. Oh, and you mentioned, I think you mentioned by inference, Sherry Menor McNamara. She's the CEO, president of the Chamber of Commerce.
Yes, she was also on my panel, and she was absolutely fantastic.
A couple of years ago, she was a host. I mean, a regular repeating host on our show.
Oh, fantastic.
So, yeah, she's great. And there are others here that I don't necessarily. Oh, Esther Ka'aina, do you have any traffic with her?
She wasn't on my panel, but I'm sure that our paths crossed.
And Louise Ng. She was president of the Bar Association for a while. She's a very nice person. She was a good president. And she's a prominent lawyer in town. So, I mean, just looking at it from the point of, who was on these panels from the local community,
yes,
it's a really good representation.
You know what else struck me too? It's a very young group. It's a very successful young women who were doing enormous and very large projects and incredible things.
So let me just play with the question I was thinking of asking you, and that is, at this conference or otherwise, what role does technology play? I'm sure you've thought about this. Technology, your specialty, play in the development of women's careers, in making excellent women's careers. Thoughts?
Well, I think, if we look at technology, there is a shortage of talent, and there certainly is interest in seeing more women in technology. And I would say that as I meet women who are in technology, they can rise faster. That there are opportunities there, in any of the tech firms and a lot of the capabilities. So I think that's something that women should always think about when you're planning your career and you're planning your future. If you do want to make a lot of money and grow quickly, technology is a pretty good bet.
Yeah, that's the second time you referred to that. It's sort of a planning idea, that a career is something you plan. You don't just let it happen to you. You don't get a job and say, oh, okay, that's it. Cradle to grave, I'm gonna work this job and I'll do good. But no, you actually have to plan your moves long in advance and figure out where the zigs and zags are, right?
Oh, you do, and I talked about that in my keynote this morning, that, let's face it, longevity is here. People are living to 100. And if you started working at 20, you might be working until 80 if you really want to afford to live to 100, which a lot of people do.
So why don't I just spend 60 years at the same company? Ugh.
Well, does a company even stay open for 60 years, right? I live in Silicon Valley. There's a lot of companies that are up and down
6
pretty
months.
quickly. Right, that's right. And the Bureau of Labor Statistics says that career average right now, job average is 4 years, 4 months. So people are cycling through jobs quickly. So you really actually need to plan your job like a game board. Where am I going to go next? What's my next chess move? And I encourage people to really think about it, because if you really do live to 100, you do want to make sure that you can afford that, stay healthy enough, technical enough, and educated enough.
You know, I hate to say this, it sounds like a computer game, because you have an inventory bag, right? You have your tools,
That's right.
which are your skills. I mean, you should be aware of what you're strong at and what you're not so strong at. And so those are your things, and then you have your vision about what you want to actually do in your life, because your occupation is, in large part your life.
Yeah.
It should be, actually. The two should be in focus. And so now you're sitting in the audience, okay, for Tracey Wilen's discussion, and you're taking stock of your inventory. Mm-hmm. You're looking at your vision for life, and you're making this kind of special analysis of what you're going to do with it. So how do you recommend that they proceed on that?
Two things. One is look at a life plan, very much like a business plan, but it's much more integrated. So look at your personal goals, your education goals, your work goals, your health goals, your family goals, and put it together and make a plan for all of it, not just the work. Integrate it. Number two is living to 100 can be a daunting thought for a lot of people. So I encourage you, break it down. Take a spreadsheet into decades. Your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, your 70s.
Sounds like Frank Sinatra's song.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But break it down so that you can set some targets, because with targets you can set goals. And if thinking about your 30s is too much, then say, okay, what do I want to do from 30 to 31? What am I going to do from 31 to 32? Research has shown that people who have targets and goals get to them faster than people who don't. Not to say there's anything wrong with being opportunity driven.
It's hard to get to a target if you don't have one.
If you don't have one. Right. And I think that's what a lot of women were emphasizing also, is that there is a lot of planning in life, and then there's also a lot of serendipity. And you need to be able to know, okay, when do I plan? Do I need to change course? And do I replan? But I think that people do need to spend time with it, because it's very different today than my parents' generation. They worked 30 years, one company, and that was it.
Yeah. Well, the serendipity part I want to examine just a little bit. This is a great conversation. I always have great conversations with you. Thank you, Tracey. Serendipity, the poetic, the artistic, the je ne sais quoi. That comes along, it comes out of the blue, it hits you one day like a pizza on the face.
Yep. And
it changes everything.
Yep.
And you never planned for it. So you can't be rigid about that, right?
Got to be open about that. So on one of these executive panels that I had in a corporation, I asked women, are you goal-driven or are you opportunity-driven? And one woman said, you know what, I'm goal-driven. The way I get through life is I plan my goals. Mm-hmm. But now I've reached my goals, and you know what, maybe I should be a little more opportunity-driven, because maybe I missed out on an experience or two. The other woman said, I'm opportunity-driven. I've sort of floated through life, catching opportunity after opportunity. It was lots of fun, lots of fun. And then she said, now I'm nearing 50, 60. She goes, it's time for me to be goal-driven, because I didn't get all the savings I want for my retirement, so I want to make sure that I do that. So now I'm flipping the switch and being goal-driven.
So money is a part of this. You can't, I have the inventory bag, I have the vision, and then I have money in there somewhere. Where do you put money?
Money is a currency to enable you to do the things that you want to do, and everyone defines that completely different. I think the American dream used to be to own a house. The American dream today is to be able to afford to live to the age that, as I said, 100.
So is it just to be able to afford to live to that age, or do I want to have a Learjet,
That's up to the individuals. Some people would be thrilled to have a Learjet, and some people would just be happy to live on the beach in Hawaii without the Learjet.
It's true. So you got to find what really turns you on, and in a world that's fairly materialistic in our time, sometimes that means, discarding materialistic notions.
That's a personal choice. So
Yeah.
some people having a happy, healthy family is the primary, and being able to afford to provide for children is a goal. Others is to travel the world. It really depends. Others just to be able to afford health care, right, and taking care of yourself.
Right. A lot of people in the South worry about that.
Yeah, a lot of people worry.
So I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to ask you what might be a personal question. Ready?
Ready.
What's your life plan?
Oh, what's my life plan?
This is like what's my line? What's my life plan? Okay. See
Sure.
how much you can tell us.
Well, I'll tell you, Jay. So I always integrated an over-goal plan. So I thought, well, maybe I would enjoy being a professor. Maybe I would enjoy being a speaker. Maybe I would enjoy being an executive, working in a technology firm.
All of the foregoing.
I did it all at the same time. I did one in the morning, one in the afternoon, one at night.
It's those pills.
So, yeah. So I accelerated that and then started to make some choices and said, okay, I've accomplished the education goal that I'd like to do. I've taught for 16 years. I don't think that will be my future path, but that was a very enjoyable. Did electronic companies, very prominent, rose through the ranks and said that was a really good experience too. Now I'm enjoying, well, I've had my books. I would say it's not the book part that I enjoy the most, it's actually getting out and meeting people like you, speaking at conferences and inspiring other people. So I think I'll continue along that venue. I really enjoy that aspect of life the most. So that's the plan for now. Mm-hmm. And then I'll set little smaller targets and some longer reaching ones.
Yeah, because it changes as you get older. I mean, you mentioned this woman who was in her 50s and all that, taking a look at her, financial needs and maybe adapting the plan around that a little more. And it strikes me that this is not a plan you make when you come to the Wahine Forum Conference. You make this plan every day, or at least at some interval. Then you review it and renew it, am I right?
Oh, well, yeah, I'm an over-planner, as I said, so I'm like a company. I look at quarterly results of Tracey, like a company does, and I say, did I accomplish what I wanted to accomplish? So I actually tend to plan longer term and then say, okay, what do I want to accomplish this quarter? Did I get there? Okay, what do I want to accomplish next quarter? But that works for me, and I am learning also to just look at more opportunities and be a little more flexible and go with the flow. Yeah. Both work.
So as you get older, your plan is likely to change. Maybe it's because of your life experience. Maybe it's because of things come down the road, things that you had hoped to achieve but didn't achieve, things that surprised you, and when, your whole worldview changes as you get older.
It does, and a lot of women do talk about the Encore Career concept, which is what do you do when you're done with your primary career? Because many women and men have just really had one track instead of multiple. And a lot of women talked about that they don't want to be the 24/7 anymore. And they're at a point in their life where giving back means a lot. And also fulfilling hobbies and passions that maybe they didn't have time to fulfill. And could they put that together into a meaningful way so that they could earn a living but also really enjoy what they do? And so there's people who go into painting and then they connect with an art gallery. Others connect with nonprofits or not-for-profits and take on executive roles there. So there's a lot of opportunities in what people can do.
Oh, you're getting me all. You're doing thought leading on me again. But for now, we're going to take a short break. That's Tracey Wilen. She's a thought leader. She's here for the Wahine Conference, and we're gonna take 1 minute break. We'll be right back.
Aloha, I'm Nicole Horry for ThinkTech. For nearly half a century, the Hawaii Foreign Trade Zone No. 9 has brought the benefits of the Foreign Trade Zone program to Hawaii businesses and entrepreneurs. DBET, the Department of Business, Economic Development and Tourism, operates Hawaii's Foreign Trade Zone program to encourage international business and economic development. The Foreign Trade Zone's mission is to increase the amount of international trading activity in Hawaii, thereby providing employment opportunities for the residents of our island state. For more information, see ftz9.org. I'm Nicole Horry. Mahalo.
Okay, this is ThinkTech. I'm Jay Fidell. It's Friday at 3 to 4 o'clock with Tracey Wilen-Daugenti. I said it right?
Yeah.
Okay. And she's a thought leader. She's from San Francisco. She's got incredible achievements behind her. She's a type A in every way. May I say that about you?
Yes.
Okay. She's here for a very special program, which I guess is just about over today. And she must have hopped in a cab, come down from Waikiki just to join us, and we are very appreciative that you did that. Thank you, Tracey. And one of the reasons is that she likes us, and we like her because we had her on the show before by Skype a couple months ago. So we were getting to the point, Tracey, about changing your life plan and finding at a certain time in life that you really you need something different, really completely different. I remember a friend of mine. Lawyers are, a great category for this, because lawyers will tolerate, the burdens, the oppressions, the demands of practicing. The law's a jealous mistress, both ways. And one day they say, I got to get out of this, got to do something else, and they find that they have skills. I mean, I remember one guy. He was a hard-driving matrimonial lawyer. One day, he became a cook. a chef, and he trained himself, and he was really very good at it. Left town to do that. But how do you factor that into this planning, approach that you're talking about?
Well, I can give you two examples. One is a woman who said, I've got to get out of, the workforce, but I'm going to plan it for 10 years and figure out my next steps. And she said, people either have skills or expertise. And she said, I would encourage people to assess, do I have a skill like an accountant, a lawyer, bake a cake, fix a car, program a website? If not, look at yourself and do you have the expertise? Are you an HR specialist? Are you a marketing expert? Can one of those, which she said is me, can I turn one of those into an Encore career? And she was a vice president of technology and marketing for a lot of Silicon Valley firms. And so she reinvented herself as a consultant for high-tech firms that did not have marketing departments. So she really said that you had to just plan. And the other woman started her planning at 68. And
68?
68.
We are impressed.
She is working now, and she said her Encore career will start at age 70, and it will go on probably, she said, until she dies, because she's a single mom. And she has lots of bills to pay. And she said, I look at it in terms of proximity and age appropriateness. So she says, here I'm sitting in, an area where the only two employers are really high-tech or healthcare. Is a high-tech firm going to hire me? Probably not. Would healthcare hire me? She said, probably so. Who better to take care of geezers but geezers? So she is now taking her gerontology certifications
That's great.
so that she can maneuver herself into the healthcare field and use a lot of her expertise and
From scratch.
experience.
From nothing.
Well, no, she has her background, and I think that's important. Both of these women said, what are the skills that I do have?
Okay, you start with your inventory.
Your inventory, and what can I bring to a future employer that would bring results to them on day one?
Right.
But how can I also at the same time maneuver into a field or lifestyle that makes more sense for me? So again, it's a lot of planning, and it's a lot of opportunity. But I think it's a way that people can start to think about their Encore careers.
Yeah, well, a thought comes to my mind is that you build your Encore career little by little during your main career. You take little elements of it. I mean, for example, last night I attended a speech downtown. It was very impressive, by a guy that I know for 50 years, I'm not kidding. And we were in the service together. He's a lawyer and practiced in Los Angeles brilliantly for a whole lifetime. Big firm. And he was collecting stamps. Okay. After all the collection of stamps, he became a professional philatelist, seriously collecting stamps and being an expert in Hawaiian stamps, even though he lives in California. It was a remarkable speech. I said, this is not something that happened all of a sudden. Gradually built up, and then when the decision was made, he was ready,
Yes, no, and I think that what you're highlighting is people are turning their hobbies and their passions into lucrative future opportunities. It may not pay as much as your primary career, but if it's keeping you stimulated and keeping you living in
living is important.
Yes, in a state that you're comfortable with, and you're pursuing your passion. So I know a gentleman who was very good with bonds and very good with wine, and eventually exited. And those two passions of his, he's put together and does quite well.
Isn't it wonderful to be alive at a time when we can do that? We can follow our passion, do what we want,
You know what, Jay? I attribute this to technology.
Go ahead.
I think technology is the root of all this opportunity, because technology has just opened up the doors for so many more startups, entrepreneurial opportunities, for freelancing, for portfolio careers, which is the combination of many passions and endeavors. And I think technology is doing us a world of good.
Yes, and so it means you've got to focus on that, whatever you do. You've got to be up current with that, or you're not as relevant.
I think it's important to understand the technology. There's a lot of technology, right? So understand the technology that makes sense in your field. So in my world, I'd like to understand how social media can help me promote, whether it's the radio
And I
show.
saw the way you handled the Skype call. That was excellent. Yeah.
Right, so these are things that I said, they make sense to me, they have a use for me, so I need to learn these things, and then it becomes more interesting for me.
Yeah.
It may not make sense to me to learn, how to program databases at this time, but at some point it might,
At least you should appreciate.
Yes, and understanding it. And so I actually go to a lot of meetups. I don't know if you
Sure.
Yeah, meetups I think are just a great way to integrate socializing with other types of hobbies with people, because it's very easy, I think, to learn, or when you're with somebody who can show you, show me the technology, help me fix my phone, show me how the Facebook works, show me how to Twitter, tweet, do all these different things.
That's the new generation, isn't it? People who help other people,
Yeah.
even though they're strangers and there's nothing in it for them, they just do it to help.
They do. It's a very nice,
It is.
comforting feel.
It's nice about this country at this time in our development. But it takes me to a question about the payback part. A lot of this creativity, the passion that we find in, what do you call it, the new career, the Encore Career,
Yeah.
okay? It's payback. It is for me. I mean, I'm inactive right in the practice of law right now. I'm doing this with you here today. I'm focused on you. So I think that's payback. And I do this for free for the community. That's what I'm doing. There must be a lot of people who get gratification out of that.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that there's a lot of benefit to having people take their Encore careers and do that kind of work, because I'll tell you, the younger generation really appreciates it, because you have so much expertise and you're very seasoned and mature about business. And I think that's where, whether it's the boomer generation and the millennials can connect together, but I think that just helps each generation grow.
So it's part of the planning process, isn't it, to be connected? As opposed to, say, one generation ago when we didn't have the internet, it wasn't so ubiquitous, and it wasn't so powerful, it wasn't so available to us. But now we have that. We can be connected. So if you want to do good planning and appreciate, the opportunities around you, you've got to be connected.
Yes, and you're bringing up a very good point, because I just completed a study with recruiters, and they said, you know what, Tracey, still the primary way to get a job or any opportunity
Word of mouth.
is networking.
Yeah.
And you have face-to-face networking, and now you have that enhanced with social media like LinkedIn to help you accelerate your networking, but it is still the primary way.
So I want to talk to you about something that's, maybe specific to Hawaii. We have, I know somebody who knows a woman who is well into her 50s, has never left this island of Oahu. Okay? And I'm raising the point of geography. So you can, plan your 60 years out or whatever it might be, and plan it right here in the channel, right here on Bishop Street. Never more than X feet or yards or miles away from Bishop Street. Or you can look at the world, and I favor the latter. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah.
But how do you build geography into your planning prospects?
That's a good point. So I met these two vibrant young women. They got out of college, they couldn't get a job, right? And it was a lot of college graduates had that experience. So they went and got jobs teaching a second language overseas. It paid horrible, but they'd never been out of the country. They went over, they learned the language, right? They had all of this experience. They came back, they were hired by Monsanto. The reason they were hired by Monsanto was because they said you showed global experience, which we value in our employees and leaders, and number two is you did a leadership thing. You actually took the initiative into the wild world that you had no clue, and you got that experience, and now they're both in their executive program training because of what they did. So I encourage students or people really to think about global opportunities. It's something I enjoy and have done a lot of, because I think you really, number one, appreciate America a lot more if you've been out to see the world. See how good it is really here.
Yeah, years ago, my generation, distinguishing the two, you got drafted. You got to see the world that way.
Yep.
It was exactly what you wanted, but you had the experience, and it gave you a worldview. It also connected you with people that you would never ever have met from far away, from different cultures within the country and outside the country. Then the draft stopped, and the Peace Corps essentially stopped. There were Mormon missions that you could go on. And there were, some limited number of jobs that you could, get internships, in Europe or Asia, but not many. And when China opened up, at least for Hawaii, there were a handful of people, young people that went over there. But I find that we don't do enough of that, even here, which is a polyglot of cultures and nationalities. And if I were an employer, if I were your hypothetical corporate employer, I would give big bucks for somebody who took the step of going overseas. Even though they didn't make any money, even though it might have been a drudge job, it was still an exposure, right, to the world. And I think Americans in general have to do that. The question is, how do you integrate the time that you spend doing that, which may not be all that productive either financially or, sort of advancing yourself. It may be a drudge job. How do you integrate that time in this long-term career?
Well, Jay, it's a good question. So I'm very passionate about travel, right? So I come from a family with immigrant background, and so I really wanted to get overseas to Europe and to Russia and to all these places where my family came from. But I couldn't afford to just travel there, so I integrated it into my work. And what I did is, at the different companies I worked for, I tried to see if there were international opportunities that I could join, either on a project team or take on an initiative that would get me to a location. And that became a part of my career plan, was I want to travel the world and I want it integrated into my career because I really want to understand how people do business in other countries. I'm more interested in how they do business and as less so than the scenery and some of the tourist stuff. And through that, I was able to visit, I think it's like 100 countries over my career span.
That's a lot of material to write with.
Right, but it was a way to satisfy that need that I had, realizing I didn't have the income to do it, but fit it into the work life. So maybe I took a lot of lateral moves, probably more than other people did, because I was maneuvering towards the next emerging market. Oh, I want to get on with the Latin America. Oh, I want to get on with the Middle East. Oh, I want to do these different things, because to me that was a very valuable experience.
I think I know the answer, but qu'est-ce que c'est a lateral move? What is that?
So a lateral move, and actually a lot of HR in firms now are saying, hey, this is a really good idea, because if you want to groom leaders, you want them to have broader experience. And most of the time in the past, it would be you had to leave the firm, go get experience, and come back. Why would you lose that talent? Why don't you start moving them? It would be in a lateral. So I'm in marketing now I'll move into finance. I'm in finance now, why don't I move into sales? And once you get this opportunity is you broaden your skills and expertise and you become a more viable candidate for executive management. They used to just keep it for the top ranks, but now they're saying maybe what we should do is allow more people in the company to do lateral moves and actually compensate them, because it's just as important to move to other functional areas as it is to move up.
I know a godson of mine lives in Singapore. That's exactly what happens. He works for a multinational there. That's exactly what happens, a training program. We're going to take a short break, but when we come back, I'd like to deal with you on the question of the local executive, woman executive or prospective executive, whether she factors in time on the mainland in order to advance her career here, or whether she just goes to the mainland, Again, the geography issue, but with respect to somebody who is starting a career right here, right now. We're going to take a short break. That's Tracey Wilen-Daugenti. We're talking about thought leadership and technology for women. She's here on a trip to speak and give, the keynote this morning?
That's right.
At Wahine Forum program in the Coral Ballroom. And we have the benefit of having a few moments with her this afternoon. We'll be right back after this break. Aloha, I'm Jay Fidell, founder of ThinkTech Hawaii. We are a digital media nonprofit that covers things that matter to tech, energy, diversification, globalism, and progress for our state, the state of Hawaii. We broadcast on community television and on Oceanic Cable Channel 16. We also stream our shows and interviews live on the internet as both radio and video, and of course we post them here on YouTube. We collaborate with the Hawaii Venture Capital Association to present monthly luncheon programs on subjects of interest to the business community. And we write for the Honolulu Star Advertiser. ThinkTech works hard to raise public awareness in Hawaii. Check out our website, thinktechhawaii.com, and come to our YouTube channel, ThinkTech Hawaii. We hope you support our mission and that you like our work. I'm Jay Fidell. Mahalo. We're back. We're live. We're here with Tracey Wilen, a thought leader. She's here for the Wahine Conference that's organized by Hawaii Business Magazine, taking place right now today. And we are having a great discussion with her. And the question we were left with before the break was, what's your advice to a young woman who wishes and plans for an important career? Should she stay here and plan to go to the mainland later? Should she go to the mainland now and plan to come back? This is a very difficult question. I'm sorry, I didn't promise you a rose garden.
Right. It is a difficult question, and it's interesting how you describe it as the mainland, because I look at it as a 4-hour flight.
Good.
Right.
Good. That's a better way.
From California to Hawaii, so I don't look at it as a big challenge or foreign country maneuver. I look at it as like any relocation. Is it wise to relocate, and for what reason? So I think if a young woman has a plan and the opportunities are not where she lives, then she may need to think about where to go that she could fulfill those opportunities. And it may not be a U.S. opportunity, it might be an overseas opportunity. But a lot of that has to do with following, what do you want to do and what are you good at, and what steps do you need to take to get there. There are always commuter. I mean, all of my international experience was pretty much commuter. And there are companies who are willing to commute people on a weekly basis. A lot of consultants do that, a lot of high-tech companies do that. So it doesn't always mean a move. However, I know some of the larger companies in the U.S. like to move people in many locations so that they can understand the local area, run a plant there, run an operation.
Like a training program, like the you mentioned before.
Exactly. So, and if that's your goals, then you have to be prepared to make those moves. And I think that's a personality choice. Some people are very adept at it, and some people are just not.
I think it's very valuable, though, the point of it's just a 4-hour flight. And really, we live in the same country, and there's no reason why you can't move around.
Oh, absolutely. That to me would be, that's a daily commute. You can fly down, do work, and fly back.
Yeah, and you make your choice on where you want to live, by excuse me, doing some due diligence anyway.
Yeah, and I think it's just part of the experience. I think the older you get, the harder it is, because you probably have roots and assets and family. When you're young and single, you might have a lot more flexibility and be a little more risk-taking than you are when you're older. But I certainly know people who are pursuing international endeavors, and as a more groomed professional. So,
as opposed to men, what are the challenges that you see in a woman who wants to develop a meaningful career? It isn't the same, and maybe viva la différence. However, there are challenges that women have that men don't have. What are they?
So you're bringing up an interesting point, because if you talk to a woman in my age group, they would say work-life balance, being a mother, right, planning elder care, doing all of these responsibilities. If you talk to a woman who's maybe a millennial in their 20s, they go, "What issue?" That's not. I don't have any roles.
Yeah, why are you even asking me?
Right. Why are you asking me this? Because they haven't seen a world of roles. They've seen either 2 professional parents, they've seen 1 professional single parent, and in their mind is a baby is okay. So maybe I carry it, but you take care of it and change the diaper.
We know a lot of families like that.
Yes, it's much more
house husbands.
Absolutely, and that's not an exception. It's actually becoming a norm in many communities, and it's so there really isn't that kind of guilt. I'll call it as guilt or cultural background of the younger generation that people maybe in my generation grew up with. Here's your role and here's what you're supposed to do. So I think it depends on who you ask, and I do have some young millennials who I work with, and they just don't even understand that there's gender anything.
It's good.
And I say, God bless you, right?
Okay.
You just move ahead.
Okay for you, good.
Yeah. So I think some of the challenges that I would encourage younger women, which I do, to think about is when you're applying to firms, to start to look at the boards and the executive staff. because there are firms where you have a predominance of boomer males running the shop, and they're going to bring in their backgrounds into that company. Out by me, you have a lot of companies run by millennials, right? Facebook, Google, Twitter, and they're going to bring in more of their generation's culture and nuances. So if you don't want to be in an environment which you consider might be stifling for you, you may want to start to think about what kind of firm do you want to work for, and start to investigate who's working there and people.
It's that same thing about learning what's going on and using that knowledge to make better choices than just an ordinary kind of due diligence examination. But I have one last area I want to cover with you, and
Yes.
that's this. You know, people are concerned about the government in this country. You know, look at Congress. I mean, jokes they make about Congress now, and people are worried. You know, that it's not doing as well, and the women are getting into government. They're running for office. Barbara Maramoto on the program you had this morning, spent decades in office here, and I wonder what your thoughts are about that as a career, and what your inventory needs to be for that, what your plan has to be for that. I mean, like to change the world like that.
You know, they say if women ran the government, there would be no wars, right?
Maybe so.
Probably the impasse and the ceiling debt, right, would have been resolved sooner. In fact, I think it was the Senate women who actually got together and pulled a proposal to say, come on, this is not a win-lose negotiation here. You've got the country at stake. You know, let's big picture, which is actually what we talked about, women who do this big picture.
Yeah.
I think it would be great to have more women in politics, and I think any way that you have a minority balance in any way brings more diversity to organizations, because then you reflect the country or the community or the customers that are buying your services. And in order to do that properly, I think you just have to have a better mix of leaders. And so I would encourage women to go into politics. To me, it's not something that was ever in my radar. There's a lot of professions that were just never in my...
Maybe it's not too late for you, Tracey.
I don't know about that, but it wasn't in my radar, and I think that's the message to younger people, is you have so many more opportunities than I ever did. Go check them out before you hang your hat on something, because there were really only three, right? You work for a company. If you're smart enough to be a doctor or a lawyer, you were a teacher. Right, that was it. And if your family had a dry cleaning business or a flower shop, you ran the family business, right? I mean, there just really weren't too many options, and there's so many more today.
Yeah, well, you'd be president, and maybe we'll have that next time round.
I don't know about that, but I think the whole entrepreneurship, and that's what I was really inspired by the Silicon Valley women, that it's a very, it's a career path, and it's the preferred career path. They're very excited about it. You sort of passe if you work in a company.
Yeah.
You haven't made it until you become an entrepreneur of a high-tech firm.
Yeah, that's the best of all, isn't it? I can hear that. Yeah, that's in all your writings, that's in everything you say and do, being an entrepreneur.
I love it. I just, that just wasn't an opportunity for me, and I just see it just other things like Shark Tank, I just get really excited about seeing people blossom their businesses.
Pourquoi non? Why not?
What do you mean?
Pourquoi non is French for why not.
But why not what?
Why not do it?
Well,
why not be an entrepreneur?
I would describe myself at this point as self-employed and enjoying it, and it does. You can actually
you
make
are
a
an
living.
entrepreneur.
I haven't made a product or a service, and I view that an entrepreneur really solves a problem either with a product or service.
Yeah.
So I view myself more as a consultant who's actually helping move society ahead, which I guess is solving
I'll vouch for you on that.
partial problem.
Where are you going to go now?
Actually, after this, I'll be off to Europe. So I have some stops over there. So I'm very excited about that. And then I have some speeches in California, and then some back on the East Coast. So I have a busy fall through December.
That's great. Tracey, it's great to see you in the flesh like this, and I hope we get a chance to talk again on Skype or in person. Next time you come out here for sure in person, but we can talk from Europe if you like.
Sure, Jay, you're only 4 hours away.
Thank you, Tracey.
Thank you.
Great to have you on the show.
It's just wonderful. Appreciate it.
That's Tracey Wilen. She's a thought leader, and you saw what I told you would see. She's a thought leader, and she's here on the Wahine Forum program, having delivered the keynote to one of the panels this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jay.
Aloha. We'll be right back with ThinkTech Friday and the Total Rest, so stay tuned.